It is officially the fantasy football playoffs. You're either winning or you're going home, okay? And the only thing we can do is work the waiver wire. Obviously, the trade deadline's passed for all of us, so this is probably going to be the most important waiver wire video we made this week. I'm going to give you literally every viable name. I'm also going to be talking about a couple of players that I know you're going to want to pick up, but I'm going to beg you not to. Before we get into anything, go down there, drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. And if you want to check out any of these player props, you can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the description of this video in the comment section. When you sign up for Underdog and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, and it's available in damn near every state. My favorite player prop on Monday night is going to be James Conner plus 31.5 total yards compared to Ramondre Stevenson. But I think that should be about it. Let's go through. Let's first dive into the running backs. We're going to be very brief with these three players because unless you're playing in a super casual league, unless you're playing in an extremely shallow format, they should already be rostered. Starting off, J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins comes in his first week, dominates in Baltimore, 15 carries, 120 rushing yards, and the rushing touchdown. Now, you still have Gus Edwards with the role. You have Kenyon Drake getting a few targets out of the backfield. So it's not like we can sit here and say Dobbins is a running back one rest of season. But in my opinion, easily a top 24 running back, someone that you are going to be looking to start. I mean, he's rostered right now at about 60% of leagues. No idea who's not rostering him. Now, going over to Cam Akers, similar story with Akers. Horrendous offense. They're also on the backup to the backup quarterback who was sitting there with Baker Mayfield. I know a lot of people are going to be excited. We'll have another Los Angeles Rams player later on in this video. With Akers, most likely already rostered in your league, but he will be better than the other waiver wire running backs that we have. Back-to-back weeks scoring touchdowns here. This issue with Akers, very similar to J.K. Dobbins. He's not going to be catching the football. And going over to our last guy, should already be rostered. Bam Knight, third straight waiver wire video. I wanted to go through and update our status on Bam Knight. Hell, I thought when Michael Carter was good to go, they're going to be splitting this backfield 50-50, and you really couldn't start either player. Well, Michael Carter played more snaps than Bam Knight this past week, but Knight actually had significantly more volume. I mean, he had 17 carries. He had multiple receptions as well. Looks like Bam Knight's the guy, but I'm assuming all three of those players are already rostered. I just wanted to make sure we got that out of the way for anybody playing in a very shallow format where maybe their league mates aren't paying attention. But going over to some names that should be actually available for you. Starting off, Tyler Algier, rostered in about 38% of leagues. Now, obviously, did not play this past week. I understand. No, nothing has dramatically changed with this situation except what the coaching staff is telling us about their plans. They're telling us that by benching Marcus Mariota, by going over to Desmond Ridder, in my opinion, I don't think Desmond Ridder is some great real-life NFL quarterback. I think what they are doing is they are saying, okay, we're no longer going to be able to play for anything this year. We have to evaluate the talent we have on our roster to see what kind of moves we need to make in the offseason. And I think based on that mindset, you wouldn't be too surprised if they start to steer clear of Cordell Patterson and go more in the direction of Tyler Algier. We've already seen this in a multitude of weeks with Cordell Patterson and Algier in the same offense, where even when both running backs are healthy, it's almost a 50-50 shot on who's going to be leading the backfield in touches. They've been splitting this backfield straight up running back by committee. Over the past 2 weeks, you have Cordell Patterson with 22 carries. You have Tyler Algier sitting there with 21 carries. I don't want to dive into the efficiency too much. I think that it's too small of a sample to take any massive conclusions outside of the fact that if this team all of a sudden is trying to evaluate the talent they have on their roster to make plans for 2023, you'd want to assume that they're more excited about getting Tyler Algier involved rather than the 31-year-old running back that's not going to be in their long-term plans for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping Cordell Patterson comes out here and crushes it after the bye week, but I don't know. Now, going over to Kansas City, we have to include Jerick McKinnon here. Now, with McKinnon, obviously, I can't sit here and say, oh, okay. I mean, he drops a whopping running back one, top 10 finish on you this week, and we can expect that going forward. I can't say Jerick McKinnon's a running back one going forward, but I can say Jerick McKinnon at this point is stepping into the range where he may be a borderline top 24 option in a full PPR format any given week. He had 9 targets from Patrick Mahomes this week. Obviously, the highlight grab, but with those 9 targets, he had 7 receptions, 112 receiving yards, multiple receiving touchdowns, gets involved somewhat as a rusher with only 6 carries. I mean, that's better than what Jarrett McKinnon usually has been giving you. If we're looking at the underlying snaps, you actually have Jarrett McKinnon with 39 snaps this past week compared to Isaiah Pacheco at 29. And this was a game where, yeah, it looked close at the end, but really throughout the entire contest, the Kansas City Chiefs were winning. I believe the Chiefs were up by like 3 touchdowns right out the gate here. So you'd assume if that was the case, Jarrett McKinnon wouldn't have some massive role, but very impressive with what we had. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not someone you have to worry about with the injury. Now, going over to Houston, this will be something we have to put the massive asterisks on. Dameon Pierce goes down with injury halfway through this game, and it looks like Dare is going to be the backup running back stepping into this role. So if you're looking at his carries, he only had 1 carry this past week compared to Dameon Pierce at 22. Dare also had a couple targets out of the backfield. I mean, if we're looking at the underlying snaps, once you had Dameon Pierce go down, who had 36 snaps played, Dare played 18. He is a usual passing down running back. Like, it's not like we could sit here and say he's going to get every single touch out of this backfield. He's not going to step into a 3-down role. It's more so going to be for those extremely deep formats. If you play in like a 14-team, 16-team league, that's a full PPR format, I think he can be a viable option, because if Dameon Pierce were to miss time, then at that point, he is going to be drawing targets. But now going over to the wide receivers, before we get to exciting names, I want to talk about some fool's gold here. And staying in Houston, Chris Moore is fool's gold. Like, please don't be rushing out there to play Chris Moore, to pick up Chris Moore. The issue with picking him up is, could you ever start the guy? I know this past week, 10 receptions, 124 receiving yards, 11 targets. He's 29 years old. I wouldn't be surprised. This is the best week he's ever had of his NFL career. Happy for the man, but you cannot assume this is going to happen going forward. This is a horrendous Houston Texans offense, and we know running backs can get there with volume and volume alone, whereas wide receivers are a little more dependent on quarterback play as well as the overall efficiency of the offense, be able to actually provide fantasy value. I mean, who knows when you're getting Collins, if you're even getting Brandon Cooks back this season, considering this team only has 1 win. I don't want a single wide receiver for the Houston Texans, regardless of if the man's coming off a 124-yard performance. Another piece of fool's gold is going to be Ben Skoranek. I understand you have Allen Robinson done for the year. You have Cooper Kupp done for the year. Baker Mayfield comes out here and leads a, 98-yard game-winning drive? Like, mad props to Baker Mayfield. That is phenomenal. Ben Skoranek was wide receiver 1, 8 targets, 7 receptions, 89 receiving yards. I think it's going to be a horrendous passing offense. I don't want to start a single wide receiver here. The only guy I want is going to be the starting running back in Cam Akers. Don't get excited about it. But some wide receivers we can actually pick up. Donovan Peoples-Jones, massive asterisks. I know he's only going to be available in 8-team leagues, only going to be available in 10-team leagues. Very similar to how we were talking about Cam Akers. I'll just bring him up for 1 second. He had 12 targets past week, 8 receptions, 114 receiving yards. Yes, Amari Cooper was down. Amari Cooper was limited going into the game, but still, I mean, with Amari, he played 75 to 90% of the snaps. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is still going to be a viable option, especially if Deshaun Watson were to get better as the season goes forward. But now some wide receivers that are actually going to be available in your leagues. Elijah Moore is going to be our number 1 waiver wire wide receiver pickup. With Elijah Moore, he had 10 targets this past week. Elijah Moore, back whenever he requested a trade, ended up getting benched, where Elijah Moore was only playing about 30% of the snaps for the New York Jets. And you can never get excited about Moore if he was going to be playing 30% of the snaps. I didn't even want to get excited. I mean, the first week where you had Mike White, where Elijah Moore had 2 receptions, 64 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. We said not to pick him up. We said not to play him. Wasn't interested. Wasn't even that interested last week. But if you're looking at the underlying usage, the snaps are going up, and up. I know a lot of people are going to think this because of the Corey Davis injury, and maybe that is a positive factor, and you should be a little bit more excited about Elijah Moore for that. But honestly, if you're looking at Elijah Moore as well as Corey Davis, play almost 2 completely different roles in this offense. I don't think that Corey Davis going down impacts Elijah Moore too much. I just think that Elijah Moore is too good of a player to stay in the doghouse for this long, and he is getting on the radar. But going over to our next wide receiver, very similar to what we were talking about with Tyler Algier. Maybe the rookies in Atlanta are going to just be getting their shot. I don't necessarily want to say Desmond Ridder is going to be coming in here and saving this Atlanta Falcons offense, but it can't be worse than Marcus Mariota. It literally just can't be. Mariota did not throw the ball. Whether you think that was because of Arthur Smith, Marcus Mariota himself, any change is a good change for the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver core with the passing volume you're going to see. The week before the bye, you had Drake London with 12 targets, 6 receptions, and 95 receiving yards. I don't necessarily think he's a massive pickup for that reason, but we know he's an extremely talented wide receiver. If you look at his wide receiver prospect profile, we know, hell, maybe, just maybe, Desmond Ridder is going to at least have 30 passing attempts in a game where Mariota never got to it. But now let's go over to another rookie, this time going to be at the tight end position. It's about time that we give the rookie tight ends in Tennessee some respect. The man over the past month, 6 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets, 2 targets. But over the past 3 weeks, he has been great. This week, 6 receptions, 45 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. I mean, don't get too excited. We have to keep in mind that you have no Treylon Burks. You have Austin Hooper splitting this tight end room 50-50. Austin Hooper actually led the Tennessee Titans in receiving this past week. But still, I think just given the fact that the tight end position is so ugly, he's at least worth a roster spot. Athletic player, and I would assume that you probably have him expanding his role as we go through the season rather than someone like Austin Hooper, where we kind of know who Austin Hooper is. But the most exciting tight end pick of the week, and it's not even remotely close, was in that same game, Evan Ingram. We had a question into the first video of the week in that comment section. You know, I try to respond to as many comments as I can. Make sure you leave any of your questions in the comment section. But essentially was, are we starting Mark Andrews or Evan Ingram? My answer was Mark Andrews because I'm an idiot. Because in reality, how the hell am I supposed to go away from Evan Ingram here? The man had 11 receptions, 15 targets, 162 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. The man had 59 targets going into this contest. Now that's going to be bumped up to 74. So he's getting volume. Trevor Lawrence, if we remove that 1 week that he had against the Detroit Lions, has actually looked very good over the past about 2 months now. Obviously, we had the ceiling with Evan Ingram back in 2017, his rookie season for the New York Giants. Happy for Evan Ingram. Going to be rooting for Evan Ingram. You're not expecting him to be the tight end 1 rest of season, but I think you can easily rank him as a mid tight end 1. Not the tight end 1 overall, though. Now, going over to the quarterback position, I got to pay some respect to Brock Purdy here. The man demonstrates a little bit of rushing upside with the rushing touchdown, obviously. Not really, but, I mean, he is very efficient. He has 21 pass attempts, 185 passing yards, some highlight throws to go along with it. I mean, the passing volume wasn't really there because they just boat race the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's 35-0 at one point. Fox is having to turn the channel to something else. It's disgusting. I mean, if you're in a spot where we have Debo, CMC, Kittle, and Ayuk, you're going to be in a position to succeed. Obviously, he's doing that right now. I mean, I think that is probably going to be a high-end quarterback 2, mid quarterback 2, just based off his situation. So I don't want to sit here and act like he's a league winner, but definitely in those deeper formats, he is going to be a viable pickup. But I think that's all we got for you. Of course, if you enjoyed this, please go down there, drop a like on this video. Make sure you go to the comment section, leave any questions you have. And if you want to check out any of these player props, you can find the link in the description. Find it in the comment section. When you sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Available in damn near every state. And my favorite player prop for Monday night is going to be James Conner plus 31.5 total yards versus Ramondre Stevenson. But that's all I got for you. Thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and I hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.